He's one of the richest men in the world. He's given away a staggering $32 billion. But is the billionaire philanthropist George Soros at the heart of a global conspiracy?
I fear we could be looking at the biggest level of international political collusion in history.
They're called globalists. Oh, come on.
Allegations are multiplying of secret Soros plots, orchestrating violence on the streets of America, and masterminding a hoax bomb plot to bring down the president.
The whole thing is a complete fantasy. This is the politics of the 21st century.
Initial reports of an active shooter, one down in the Tree of Life synagogue.
This is a conspiracy theory with deadly consequences.
Suspects talking about all these Jews need to die.
So how did George Soros become the arch-villain? Born in 1930 to Jewish parents in Hungary, he survived the Holocaust to become one of the richest men and one of the biggest philanthropists in the world.
George Soros, as a person who studied philosophy, he always had a hankering to do more than simply make money.
Soros's fortune has given his Open Society foundations $1 billion a year to fund thousands of education, health, human rights, and democracy projects. Soros has pioneered a bold political approach to philanthropy, championing the rights of dissidents, migrants, and the oppressed. Starting in 1979, he focused on the former communist states. His foundations now operate in more than 120 countries around the world.
A democracy or open society only survives if it's tested. It's constantly in danger. It's constantly in danger of falling apart, and there must be some people who'll fight to preserve it.
From his New York base, he's made an incredible $44 billion through financial speculation. But he's accused of channeling his vast wealth in pursuit of a secret plan to overthrow governments, to control European politics.
Please join me in welcoming George Soros.
And to buy up the US Democratic Party, all to impose his own global vision.
So this is where I spend hours and hours and hours a day back in here.
Jim Hoft says he created his news and opinion website to expose the wickedness of the left and correct what he claims is the biased reporting of the mainstream media.
Our audience continues to grow, and it's because they trust what we're putting out there. I would say the media was with Hillary, and there wasn't a lot of conservative outlets that were with Trump. We were.
God bless Trump and God bless America.
Go Trump! Go Trump! Go Trump!
Jim Hoft champions Donald Trump's message that the global elite are destroying America.
That's Obama. That's Hillary Clinton.
And the worst enemy of the United States is on top, don't you know?
It's claimed one man embodies everything that's going wrong in America.
George Soros. George Soros is the biggest, largest donator to anti-American causes.
The Gateway pundit is determined to reveal the true George Soros.
People are so aware of his name now on the right that if you say it's Soros funded or that it's linked to George Soros, it immediately puts up a red flag. People in middle America sure see him as a globalist, see him as an elitist.
We don't want people pouring into our country. We have no idea who they are, where they come from.
We will build a great wall along the southern border.
There's one issue above all that's enraged the right. They claim George Soros wants open borders and has a secret plan to flood the country with migrants. In autumn 2018, thousands of migrants left Honduras bound for the USA. It was just a month before the crucial midterm elections that threatened to derail Trump's presidency. Immediately, the so-called migrant caravan was blamed on George Soros.
Do you think somebody's funding a caravan? Do you think everybody's paying for the caravan?
I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah, I wouldn't be
George
surprised.
Soros?
I wouldn't. I don't know who, but I wouldn't be surprised. A lot of people say yes.
We don't fund caravans. We do fund policy change. We do look for ways to solve the crisis over migration, but that does not include the funding of caravans. Those are preposterous allegations made up by politicians and others who want to fuel hatred and fear.
The migrant caravan was filmed throughout its entire journey. Local charities were seen helping the migrants, but there's no evidence of Soros funding at any point. 2 weeks before the midterm elections, with the political temperature rising, news came through of mail bombs being sent to leading Democrats. The first bomb was sent to George Soros's home. Others were sent to former President Obama and Hillary Clinton. None of the devices detonated. The suspicion? Fake bombs designed to help the Democrats' election chances.
There was something wrong with these bombs. It appeared that these were bombs that would never explode because they just weren't constructed in the correct way.
President Trump seemed to agree, tweeting this bomb stuff was damaging the Republican election campaign. The FBI traced the bomber to a car park in Florida. They impounded his white van. It looked too good to be true, covered in pro-Trump stickers. On the internet, George Soros was accused of orchestrating everything.
The guy who had slapped all the crazy stickers on his van. I'm not going to get into any conspiracy, but it is interesting that this guy built all these, it looks like in the back of a van. So he was a pretty busy guy in his van.
So was George Soros the mastermind of a mail bomb plot to derail the Republican election campaign? Was the white van and its right-wing stickers a setup?
Every morning I would walk my dog down the sidewalk. This white van, I saw this white van for about 2 years, almost every day. It was covered with stickers, right-wing crackpot messages, conspiratorial stuff. One day when I was walking by, I just decided to take a picture.
Months later, David watched reports of the mail bomber's arrest.
I looked at the photos I had taken a year ago, and boom, there were some new stickers, but it was the van. When I posted the photos, I probably got more retweets than I ever had in my life. And then almost immediately on the heels of that, I started getting crazy conspiracy stuff. Somebody making accusations that I had faked when I took the photos.
Using the data on the photos, David Sipkin was able to prove he took them the previous year. The mail bomber turned out to be a 56-year-old Florida man called Cesar Sayok. The final proof that there was no hoax is the former bodybuilder's plea of guilty to 65 counts, including intent to kill or injure with explosives.
You at the time said, it was a total hoax.
We were saying that these bombs, there was something wrong with these bombs, and that they were a hoax in the fact that they weren't potentially dangerous as they were being reported.
Sayok's social media revealed he hated the migrant caravan. On the day the pipe bomb was discovered at George Soros's house, Sayok reposted a meme that the world is waking up to the horrors of George Soros.
The complainant says they have an active shooter in the building. A second call says they are being attacked.
We're under fire. He's got an automatic weapon. He's firing out in front of the synagogue.
11 days after the first conspiracy theory surfaced about the migrant caravan, a white male, armed with an assault rifle and 3 handguns, walked into a synagogue in Pittsburgh.
At least one caller sounded like they may have been shot. Several calls of persons sheltering in place within the structure.
The gunman murdered 11 Jews. It was the worst act of anti-Semitic violence in American history.
Suspect say his name is Robert Bowers. Rob Bowers. 7-1 suspect's talking about all these Jews need to die.
Yes, the suspect keeps telling about killing Jews. He doesn't want any of them to live.
The gunman Robert Bowers' social media soon revealed his motivation for murder. He believed in a dark anti-Semitic conspiracy theory with George Soros as the mastermind.
We collected some quotes from the Bowers case from the Pittsburgh shooter to see how he was referring to George Soros. And he says that the gun control is pushed by Jews, open border pushed by Jews. Soros, the Jew that funds white genocide and controls the press. The person who is funding this white genocide that he's killing people for, the guy who's really behind it, is George Soros.
Joel has now received open society funding to investigate what he believes is a growing threat.
White supremacy has gone from being a background phenomena to a rally that's going on these web platforms with hundreds of thousands of people, 24/7, non-stop, and internationally.
Jews will not replace us!
Their chants of Jews will not replace us refer to a widespread conspiracy theory of white genocide.
The myth of white genocide. I'd never heard of it before I started studying these communities. Basically the idea that the white race is falling into decay, that it's no longer breeding, and that everywhere the white race exists, it's being replaced by immigrants, and that ultimately displaces white people entirely and eliminates them from the planet.
And for white supremacists, Soros is the Jewish mastermind pulling the strings.
George Soros for these communities is the devil incarnate, and all of the memes point to a supernatural evil in a human being.
Across Europe, the Soros conspiracy theories are spreading. In Italy, he's now accused of funding rescue ships in the Mediterranean, whose real purpose is to smuggle migrants to Europe. Italy's former Deputy Prime Minister, Matteo Salvini, is a fierce critic. Salvini said, "Soros wants to fill Italy and Europe with migrants. He would like Italy to become a giant refugee camp because he likes slaves."
The allegation is false. The allegation is false. Neither George Soros nor the Open Society Foundations are proponents of open borders. I'm shocked that a country like Italy will have a deputy prime minister eliciting such vile and base rhetoric. It's tragic, but it's not only Salvini.
George Soros has made no secret of his views on Brexit, publicly contributing more than $2 million to the Remain campaign. Now talk of a secret Soros plot is spreading to the UK.
George Soros recently gave Open Society $18 billion. And his influence here and in Brussels is truly extraordinary. I fear we could be looking at the biggest level of international political collusion in history.
The George Soros conspiracy, this is like probably the most successful political product of our time. You know, it helped President Trump, it helped Brexit, it's being used all over Europe, it's being used from Kenya to Colombia. George Soros everywhere. It's like a globalized, perfect enemy for the new right movement.
It terrifies me that this kind of rhetoric, which used to be heard in beer halls and dark corners, is being spoken by politicians, by leaders of country, the Deputy Prime Minister of Italy, the Prime Minister of Hungary. That this kind of language is being used is shocking.